We have a bunch of weak, feckless leaders
Wide
creating
around
hard
the
times
event.
right now.
What the fuck is going
Will
on?
you let me
right
Do
now?
we take him out to a farm and shoot him?
No spin, no filters, just the real conversation.
I hope it's not short-lived, man.
I want to start off today with asking a simple question. What's the difference between fascism, populism, authoritarianism, and just a plain old effective leader? Mostly the perspective of the person defining the leader, and that they're violent in nature, right? Kind of like the difference between genius and insanity. The first three have been used to describe Donald Trump. And to be honest, I think he's just the last one. I'm going to read off a list of what the difference between popular leaders and effective leaders are. Obviously, popular leaders are somebody who's well-liked, while a leader is just somebody who's effective and makes a positive difference. The difference between the two is that popularity is often based on people's emotions and can be temporary, while leadership is about earned respect and building trust. To that point, I think that's kind of why Donald Trump has gained more and more people behind him as the years go by. The other differences between popular leaders and effective leaders, focus. Okay, popular leaders focus on what people want, while leaders focus on what's best for the organization. Actions. Popular leaders may be popular for a short time, while effective leaders make lasting impact. Personality. A great leader can have any personality type, while popularity, it's not a simple concept, right? Look at Obama, look at Clinton. Both of them popular. When you look at the after effects of their administrations, not so great. And style. An effective leader may be less charismatic, but they are known for their integrity, hard work, and clear vision. So that's kind of the direction that I want to take our pod a little bit tonight, because I just keep hearing from the left, he's a fascist, he's an authoritarian, he's a populist, and it doesn't make sense to me, right? The guy can admit his faults, he comes in, he changes. I don't know, it's just, he's an amazing leader, I think. So
I think you're 100% right. Just look at some of the immediate decisions that he's made, and then try to rationalize how he made that decision.
Yeah,
I think you were using, his VP pick as, an example of that. I mean, what before we compare and contrast here, like, what was your initial thought of Mr. Vance?
I didn't even really know anything about JD Vance until he brought him out as a VP pick. I saw him on the list, the short list, and I was like, I don't even know who that guy is. He's definitely not going to get it. Right. I thought it was going to be, I was hoping it wasn't going to be Vivek, because Vivek is a little bit too close to like Donald Trump's personality. Like, he's really sharp and good at what he does. I was kind of hoping for like a Tim Scott maybe, but I didn't see JD Vance coming at all.
Right. It was surprising, right? So you had this guy who was, at least if you're so he made this announcement, you were already in the Trump camp, firmly in the Trump camp. At the time, I was very much, still, I was on my journey, right? But Vance was already Democrat. Like, he was a Republican, but he was a rhino. And I was like, oh, sweet. This guy is, he's actually a Republican. He shares a lot of the values that I have in terms of what smaller government and whatnot, but he's not just a pro-Trumper. But this guy ripped Trump apart for years.
Years.
Right? He was a senator for, 3.5 years, 4 years or something like that by this point. And
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and so this guy literally just, Trump would just take a step, and JD Vance was there to criticize it. Doesn't matter what happened.
Yeah.
You or me. You're 40, I'm approaching 40. I would say, we're both leaders, right? And just in personality, we bring people together. We that's just how we are. It's how we operate. Both have a military background, and level-headed for the most part, right? We don't get irate unless you tell me to go clean the head. But yeah, we don't get crazy. We stay on mission. We stay on target. We grunt through and we get the job done. If I was Trump and I had JD Vance somebody suggested that this man should be my VP, I wouldn't even consider it. It's like, well, go fuck you and fuck this person. Like, he's literally, JD Vance is trying to ruin my career. That's what he's been doing for the last 3 years. He's on the other side. Right. He's a never Trumper. Yeah, that's not what Trump did, though. Trump looked at this guy, squared him up, and recognized what he's capable of, what he brings to his party. The differences in their character, right? The differences in the people that they naturally reach out to, and that kind of flock to their charisma, and picked them. How? I just thinking about this for a second. Think of the wisdom. Think of the just the person you have to be to look at somebody who has just been casting endless shade your way for years, 3 years minimum, and then be like, that's the guy I need.
Right.
I honestly,
I don't
that
have
is
the
just
ego for that.
It's okay. First of all, you don't see those kind of decisions made very often, and it's very, very, very rare to see it. And this guy did it just on the public stage in front of everybody, and everybody missed it. I didn't pick up on it until you started talking about it today.
That's what I'm saying, is like, literally, right? He put his ego aside and he picked somebody who he thought was going to be an effective VP. And what has JD Vance done since he became VP? He's blown my fucking socks off. Okay? Yeah. He has made just amazing appearance after amazing appearance. And he is actually wooing everybody that didn't really like Donald Trump. And between JD Vance and RFK and Musk and Tulsi Gabbard, right? You're really seeing the spectrum of a Republican Party that I would stay with for the rest of my life if it kept along this path. I would stay a Republican for the rest of my life if they prioritize the same things they're prioritizing this year, with the spectrum of political differences and diverse thought that goes into that party. So it's pretty spectacular to see. So like, I just have a hard time understanding how anybody can label Donald Trump as a fascist, as an authoritarian, as a populist leader. Okay, when he's not adhering to any of those things. Like, he gets real close because the internet, they're real close. All of those definitions are very close to what an effective leader is.
Yep.
Right? There's a very thin line.
Yeah,
and it's mostly violence.
To be clear, he is a populist leader, Trump. And I only say that because he's focused on America. He's America first. He gives about zero shits for our neighbors to the north and the south. He could care even less about anybody else overseas. If Ukraine and Russia, you guys got beef, figure it the fuck out. Like, okay, that's a problem for you to solve. Like, he is so focused on the United States and Americans and our problems that that he's walked completely away from a globalist agenda. Globalism on the other end of the spectrum is like, hey, the United States needs to be the parking lot for the whole fucking planet. We need to police the planet. We need to feed the planet. We need to the planet. The United States is responsible for, which is exactly what Harris wants. And so, yeah, I think it's okay to label him as a populist. There are so many people that are proud to have a president that's actually thinking about them.
Do you know what the difference between fascism and populism is?
Well, populism, it really describes the focus of a government.
It's literally violence.
Oh, really? No, that can't be true.
Yeah. They're so similar in definition. I've been looking it up. It's crazy to me, right? When you start looking up the definitions of those three words, how similar they are. The only thing that is difference, really, right? Fascism is all about like cult mentality is what the internet's saying. I honestly kind of think that they edited that just for Donald Trump, like massive rallies. So it kind of feels like a targeted ad, what the article I was reading about it, but
yeah. So I'm just looking at some definitions here, and really, so populism is an approach to politics that represents the interests and the voices of just ordinary people. Okay. Fascism is an authoritarian far-right political ideology that also prioritizes a very strong, centralized, controlled government, led by a dictator, type person.
Yeah, dictatorships.
And it is true to say a fascist leader is populist by definition, but not all populist leaders are fascist.
Because of violence, mostly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's crazy to think that anybody could like really, because it's such a fine line, right? And I totally get why people would say fascism, authoritarian, or populist, right? It's a label, and it's all about perspective of those people. But even populist leaders have negative connotations behind them. And I just think Donald Trump is out here making hard decisions that aren't popular, and it's angering people. Like the people that are coming out and calling him these things from within his cabinet, he's fired, right? And then all the media's manufacturing chaos by pointing at this fired person who has beef with Donald Trump. And he's like, see, they called him a fascist. He worked with Donald Trump, right? So it's just a little bit fake to me, I guess.
Yeah, still, we have to. I would be careful, Zach, in trying to label populism as fascism, because that is exactly a ploy on the left, right?
Right.
The closer,
right.
Because the two are not the two are congruent in that one begets the other, but again, populism just really represents the quality of a political ideology of a particular candidate. And so, like, in Trump is a populist in that he is, again, focusing on America. He's tired of the elite. He's tired of the status quo. He wants to just kind of do away with all that. If to say he was fascist, right, he would then have to be fucking racist as shit. Because basically, you just say America is for Americans, those Americans. You'd have to identify a group. There's a bunch of other issues that comes with fascism. Like, again, racial purity, nationalism, centralized control that a populist leader may not agree with.
Right.
Like Trump is a good example of kind of actually combating centralized control. He wants if he's bringing on Elon Musk.
He wants to drain the swamp, right? And that was a huge thing.
And Elon is going to, dude, the Doge is going to...
The Doge, baby.
I want to see the 450-ish federal agencies be reduced to 50 tops.
Yeah.
And the IRS needs to be like kneecapped. Like, oh, did you hear, by the way? So somebody asked him, he was doing an interview in a barbershop, and somebody asked him, there's only like, I don't know, maybe a dozen people in the room. So it was very intimate. Somebody asked him, like, yo, Trump, like, we can't make any progress as a culture, here. Every money, all the money that we get is just going to taxes, and so we can't get ahead. What can you do about this? And he's like, and he gave him a history lesson. It's like, hey, we didn't have income tax until like 1890. Yeah. And then, why we didn't have income tax? And they're like, nope.
It was actually 1915 after the centralized bank was founded in 1913.
And two, we had tariffs. We paid for everything because of the tariffs we imposed on importing goods to this country.
Yep.
There was.
We still had roads. We still had cities. We still had infrastructure.
It was the opposite of this is actually true. So what happened was America had a surplus of money. Every year, we could not spend the money fast enough. It was just sitting there, and the government wasn't about to hold on to it. And we didn't have a central bank at the time, so we didn't give it to somebody else to go manage. And so they had, I can't remember the name of it, Trump knew, a system to literally give out the money to townships, to bigger cities, to states and territories, and just come and fucking take it. Just take it. Come take this money and go do better work in your territory. Yep. That was how much money they made on tariffs. Granted, this is the late 1800s. It's a much smaller country. This is pre, crazy industrialization that's about to occur with the steam engine and the plane and whatnot. But that we walked away from that. It was just a few years later, like you said, around with the establishment of the central bank, aka the Federal Reserve, and the curbing of all tariffs, that everything went to shit, and we needed an income tax. And Trump promised this guy, he's like, hey, if we get our shit together and I'm allowed to bring back these tariffs, so if people want to do business with this great nation, they will have to pay for the privilege. I guarantee you, we can move to get rid of the income tax nationwide.
Absolutely.
Fucking amazing.
And I think that he wants to start it out, because I've seen a lot of reports where he wants to start it out with like first responders, active duty military, veterans, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So those would be like the first groups that he started out with, and maybe year one, just to see what it looks like. But it's just fascinating to see him in those like moments in the barbershop where he's talking to these people that are disenfranchised with America because they're having a hard time making anything happen.
Yep.
Right. And I feel that, you know, I went from making good money and having a great economy to making good money and having a shit economy. And it's telling, right?
Right.
It's very hard. It's very stressful.
Yeah.
To deal with that.
Yeah.
And
I remember. I mean,
yeah.
Especially when we were enlisted, it was like, thank God I can just suckle up the teeth of the government. Because with this money, I have enough money to pay my rent and put a little bit away, and then just get to work and pray to God I'm not in an accident or anything like that. Because if this vehicle dies, I'm screwed. I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. I remember my very first paycheck in the military. It was $600.
You got me beat.
I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Yeah. I think it was $600 for the month.
It was for my first paycheck.
No,
it was 2 weeks. It was every the first and the 15th, and it was less. For me, it was like $565.
You were in barracks, huh?
Yep. I was like $560.
I was out on the economy.
And you only got $600?
I had it was $1,200 for the month.
Plus BAH.
Yeah, it was $1,200 for the month, right? So I had $600 in BAH, I think, and $600
basic allowance for housing. Everybody who's not in the military, we get what's called a basic allowance for housing, a quick primer, so you understand what the fuck we're talking about. In addition to your pay, you get money to live in an apartment or rent a house, something like that.
Or they give you a barracks room or something.
Or you can live on base for free, and you'll get a little barracks room, and you have to abide by all the rules and regulations that comes with living on base, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is a pain in the ass. But some people don't have the choice. Yeah.
Some people shouldn't have the choice.
That's very true. But let's not get distracted. Let's get back to it. It's just the main point, that we're making today, right? About these labels that the left wants to put on. It's more manufactured chaos, right? One thing that I found interesting when I was looking up what authoritarian governments are is they also want to centralize power, right? And suppress dissident. But they want their subjects to remain passive and demobilized. And it kind of sounds a lot like what we dealt with in COVID, where they wanted you to shut up, stay in your homes, take the pay, be grateful. They're trying to get rid of your gas, anything.
Right.
So that you don't have the ability to move about the way you want to. There's even talk about communities where you don't drive more than 45 minutes away from your house. You'll have your planned work area and you'll have your house and you'll stay within that 45-minute area.
You're talking about Tampa?
What?
It's Tampa. Except it's not 45 minutes, it's 15 minutes. I mean, that's ridiculous. If anybody who's been to Tampa, I mean, it's 15 minutes just to go from one end of downtown to the other end of downtown. So that's it. I guess you're just, I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to point out is like I've heard talk about, limiting people's ability to move about because of carbon footprints and stuff like that.
It's so fucking stupid, man.
It is stupid. It is stupid. Like when we were talking about what the CO2 content of the atmosphere is being at 0.004 and plants dying off at 0.002.
That's complete
of
malarkey.
The entire atmosphere, right?
It doesn't make any sense. What? Like, okay, can we just talk? Do people understand how photosynthesis works? You need fucking carbon dioxide.
Oh man, I had the same conversation today.
Literally, all you have to do to these wackos is to say the world. Look at a picture of the Earth, like from a satellite, and look how fucking green it is today versus 10 years ago. The Earth is way more vibrant and green and luscious today than it was 10 years ago. Why is that, Jesse? Why is that, Zach? Well, because there's more CO2 in the air. and
Plants eat
they're
it.
growing like crazy, and they're
Plants
producing
eat
more
it.
oxygen as a result.
Right.
It's just so stupid. And then they're like,
It
well,
is
it's
stupid.
making it's global warming this, global warming that. It's like, no,
That's just the globe. The globe is
planet
warming, man.
was warming 10,000 years before we even produced a single engine. So go figure something else out. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's actually clever though. If you're thinking
It
about
is clever.
if you
It's
need
clever
a way
because
to isolate and contain a population, you take away their transportation. You make
Right.
it wicked and evil and vile, and you make them feel bad for driving and commuting and flying in their private jets. Then
Right.
then they're going to stop doing it less, and they're going to just kind of isolate.
and then only the elites will have the ability to do it.
Yep. Well, yeah,
It's the way it's going to go.
if we keep voting, left, yeah.
If we keep voting the way that we're voting, they will take us down a path that we don't want to be in as human beings, right? It's subjugation at its finest.
Yeah.
And so I just challenge everybody who is listening to this. I know there's only like 10 of you, but I want you to like really think about that and really challenge yourself to find examples of what the status quo actually is. Donald Trump isn't any of those things that they paint him as, right? I don't know him personally, but I have a brain and I can look at stuff and read the definition on the internet. And it's pretty plain to me, right? Which one of these two candidates, right, is doing the things that we don't want him to do? Which one of these two is using the Justice Department to go after a political opponent? Which one of these two has people using political violence, riots in the streets, burning and looting, right, and doing nothing about it and actually like trying to promote it by not
Defunding the
going after-
police.
That's what I'm saying. Defund the police, not prosecuting crimes.
How
Kamala Harris
insane is
freaking
that?
created a bail
Like,
for protesters.
if people are not aware, it's crazy that in California, Zach, we should go to California. Just go in, go to a store, steal $900.
$950.
Yep, steal $900 worth of stuff and walk out. And then when the cops stop us, it's like, hey, it was only $900. Oh, good for you, citizen. And then just keep on our merry way. Oh, and then we could do some drugs in the middle of the street,
For free.
Oh yeah, for free. And we can go to
They've given to us.
We can go to the San Francisco Drug House, sponsored by Gavin Newsom. Grab our needles, and some aluminum, and then head out and just party with our new $900 worth of shit. It's crazy to me that that's an option that we have. It's an honest to God option.
I know.
It's so
I know.
stupid. It's so stupid.
And like I've said before on previous podcasts, I was totally down for the legalization of all drugs. Not because I use or imbibe drugs, right? I've done some marijuana before in the past, but like, I really truly believe in the country of the free, right? I believe in personal freedoms. I believe in personal liberties. I think that you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want, so long as it doesn't create a victim in any way, shape, or form. So if you want to fuck up your life with drugs or alcohol, be my guest. It's not my life you're fucking up, it's yours. And then I saw the policies happening on the West Coast, Seattle, Portland, all throughout California. And I have to ask myself, did we do it wrong, or is it just that people suck and they need Jesus or something? Right? Probably that they just need Jesus. I don't know. But they're not doing good stuff for themselves.
It would be, if we were to step back and imagine there is no government, like a centralized government, right? And then, if people going out, you manufacturing drugs, using them, selling them, it would be probably a decently small market. It really wouldn't impact a lot of people if it was up to these, small towns and whatnot to handle it. There'd be rules and regulations, just like no drinking and driving, right? No shooting up and driving or doing stuff like those are all exist. The problem is these massive crime families and the government. I don't know if YouTube's going to ban this, all right? But in the mid, when was the crack epidemic? 90s, in the mid 90s,
80s, I think. Honestly,
maybe it started way back before that, but it broke in 90s, in the mid 90s. A guy named I think it was Gary Webb broke the story in his book called like The Dark Web, Dark Alliance, where he actually went and dug up the story about how the CIA synthesized, created crack. You know, they synthesized crack out of cocaine, right? Out of pure cocaine, and then they distributed it in Harlem, and they built up a network to go fund their Iran-Contra affair. Okay.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so that is what's happening. It's not that, you know, hey, we're doing some marijuana here. No, it's the fucking CIA is using it against a targeted demographic to push several agendas, by the way.
Right.
But then using that money to go fund their foreign, wars and what have you. And so it's like it cannot possibly exist. Like I was in the same spot. Like, yeah, we should decriminalize this shit.
Right.
Like, why are we throwing people into jail for using cocaine? Like, people can smoke a cigarette.
Victimless crimes. Why would you do that?
Exactly. But then when you start to take your own head out of your ass and look at what's actually happening, like, yeah, it doesn't work. It destroys communities. It destroys
people need structure. People need structure.
Yep.
Without
I would say
it's chaos.
And
people are fucking chaos.
When you have large groups of people working together, you need structure. That's what it is. We're 350, 360 million people living in this country.
Something like that.
We need structure. That's how we're going to get along. We need rules.
That's how civilizations exist.
That is why we're humans. That's why we're Homo sapiens sapiens, because we're able to develop those rules and abide by them and continue to cooperate in greater and greater numbers, accomplish greater and greater feats. But we have to work together, and we can't have stupid drugs like fentanyl kill us all off.
Right. So the crack epidemic in the United States was the entirety of the 80s and early 90s.
Mm-hmm. That's right. The CIA thing broke in, like I said, I think it was in 96 with whatever his name was, Gary Webb. Anyway, it's just...
And I think that guy got himself waxed.
Probably. If he's still alive, I'd be surprised.
I don't think he made it past the 90s, homie.
Anyway. How did we get here?
Authoritarian governments.
By way of carbon dioxide.
He made it to 2004.
Actually, that's not bad.
Yeah, I definitely thought
he made it 8 years.
Yeah.
After he broke that thing. So do we want to dig into like some of the shenanigans that we're seeing today?
Yeah, let's dig into that stuff because we don't have too much time. I took up way too much time with
No. It's really good. It's a really good point. All right, so if we're taking a look at some of the malarkey we're seeing, we're being asked to believe, Kamala Harris is asking us to believe that there is no problem with immigration and there is no problem with our current way of voting across the country. No problems. Don't think about it too hard. Don't look into any of these, onesie-twosie examples that are cropping up everywhere. Just focus on the goal, which is getting me elected, right? So a video popped up on X today, pulled over a couple in a, I don't know, whatever. They were average looking couple. I'm fine. They weren't like doing anything crazy, but turned out they were illegal aliens, driving on our road. The cop asked for ID. And again, these two people were wonderful. They were polite, cordial. They spoke English decently enough, and they were giving the cop everything he asked for. And they handed over an ID for both of them. And he looks at him. He's like, he grabs them both. He's looking at it. And you can't really see in the video, but it looks like there's the seal of the Customs and Border Patrol is printed in the top left-hand corner of this ID. And they take a look at it, and he's like, are these real? And he's like, yeah. And the guy was just being honest. He's like, yeah, I got to the border. I crossed over. We went through this thing. They gave us these IDs. They told us to go here, and here's the things we could do, and we could drive with these. And so that's what we've just been doing. And he was just being honest. And the cop was like, looked at his partner. He's like, well, what the fuck do we do with these? And sure enough, he's like, I think we have to let him go. So you had somebody driving a car without a driver's license with some random custom Border Patrol ID. I don't know what it is. I would love to dig into this. Without insurance, let them go. They just let him go because they didn't know what to do with him. He's like, everything, this is so weird. If that was an American citizen, got pulled over without a driver's license, without registration, without proof of insurance, they may not go to jail, but one of two things is definitely going to happen. They're either going to get towed on the spot, they're going to be asked to leave the vehicle, and they're going to tow the car because it shouldn't be on the road. Or two, the cop is going to be very nice and tell them, do not drive this car get it towed yourself, and the cop is just going to leave. And of course, the guy's going to drive away. But that's one of the two things that are going to happen. They're certainly not going to not ticket the person and just let them go about their merry way. Nuts.
I mean, if the guy wasn't even familiar with that ID card, there's a strong possibility it could have been fraudulent. We don't know. But he was like, I'm not going to end up on the news for arresting a very sweet couple for having new identification cards that I didn't know existed. Right. They probably need to have some kind of training in their facilities about that stuff. I'm sure they're probably going to be talking about it. Before I forget, though. Jesse, you remember what we talked about a couple nights ago? That thing that you downloaded off the internet?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, please? Because I am just dying on the inside.
So it's tough, right? You're talking about the certificate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Zach, why don't you open us? Just tell us about the video that got us here in the first place.
So I watched a video, right, on the internet, and I'm like, okay, cool. It's just a video. Who knows if he's just blowing smoke up my ass? So I'm like, I sent it to Jesse, and I'm like, I need you to verify this. In the video, right, it was a guy who downloaded Obama's birth certificate off of the White House's website.
Whitehouse.gov.
Whitehouse.gov, right? Obama's birth certificate's on there. He opens it up in some file editor.
Adobe Illustrator.
And in Adobe Illustrator, he's shocked to find there's multiple layers and you can edit the entire document, right? I don't know anything about Adobe Illustrator. That's why I asked Jesse, because Jesse knows all about this stuff. I'm like, I need to know what the hell I'm seeing here. Is this true? Is it not true? Is it just bullshit? You know, it's kind of what we do here is we try to figure out what the hell is going on in the internet and in the government.
So Zach sent me the video, and I was able to replicate the video exactly as is. Right, I went to the White House. I went to the same link that was there. I was able to download the PDF of Barack Obama's birth certificate from Hawaii, and then I opened it up in Illustrator. And so normally what you'd expect to see in a document like this is a single layer. And the single layer is a rasterized image of the birth certificate that was scanned in. That's what you would expect to see. However, after opening it, there was 15, 20 different layers on this thing. And it was just weird, right? You could remove the text, and then behind the text there was all this white outlines of of where the text was. There were certain images that you could bring in and bring out. You could remove the background of the paper. You could do this, and you could do that. It was like, that's interesting. And originally I was really concerned. I was like, okay, this does not look good. So I brought in somebody else, and I was like, okay, let's just walk through how this might happen. And so we ran some more tests, and what we believe to be the most likely scenario, which is not the gotcha one, unfortunately, but the most likely scenario is that the person scanning this document scanned it as an OCR, an optical character recognition, document, where it would attempt the software would attempt to isolate the text from the rest of the image, allowing it to be selected, in a regular text document for later, versus having it scanned as an image. And if this was way back in the day, say this was 10 years ago, and they went through that process, that scanner and that software would likely only pick up the text. But the more modern day OCR scanning software will attempt to distinguish unique images, backgrounds, things like that, and make your life super easy. So if you do want to put a document into Illustrator, it will be much easier to edit and manipulate. So we think that's what happened.
That's what we hope, right? That's what we hope. So if you were going to forge it, right? You would just create the document, print it out, scan it as an image, and then there would be no problems. Nobody would be able to edit that. Right. There wouldn't be multiple layers. And I had a buddy that suggested maybe that Adobe Illustrator automatically does that with all images.
No.
I was like, I don't think so.
It doesn't. I can tell you that. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could do with an Adobe Suite to do that, but it won't do it automatically.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. It's an interesting find. So I hope it's fake.
Yeah.
I've been of the opinion that it doesn't matter. He's done and over with. He can't be president. He can't do anything else but other than behind the scenes as a kingmaker. But it'd be hilarious to like throw a pie in his face, metaphorically. Metaphorically.
Yeah, no, that's not going to be the one, unfortunately. It still could be. Like, the video is tracking. It's going to get more and more popular, right? Especially now when people are looking for anything.
Right.
And so that video will get more popular. And I bet you I was talking to this guy, and if we forensically dug into this document and actually pulled out all the meta tags, which is not very forensically tough, I bet you we could find the make and model of the scanner that scanned it, and then we could actually just see what kind of capabilities it has.
You should do that,
It
because
probably
that'd be
could.
awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, if it's like an old brother printer and it's just you scan something and then they took that scanned image and then edited the shit out of it, and like nobody's going to look into this and just saved it to the whitehouse.gov. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be a mistake.
But we've talked about a lot of like things where people just don't use common sense. So it's very likely that something like that could have happened.
It is.
That's the
It
camp
is.
I live in.
Yeah. That is the camp you live in. That is for damn sure. I'm going to I'm going to rest with somebody just didn't check the right box on the thing. It would probably just been that easy. Can I leave us with one more thought here, just as we kind of,
Please.
We're
Please.
we're getting close to that 40-minute mark, and we really don't want these things to run longer than 30 minutes. We're not doing a good job, but this is important. Okay. One of the battleground states is Arizona, and the biggest county in Arizona is Maricopa County. Okay. Maricopa County just came out, I think it was yesterday, it might have been today, saying that they're going to need between 10 and 13 days to finish counting. Fucking Argentina, all right, our model country that Zach and I love to use as the example of when things go well. All right, their entire fucking country, it was something like 99.9% of every vote was counted in 6 hours in Argentina. Now, we're talking about a country it's a large country, not as big as the United States, but we're talking about a country that is both, it's diverse culturally, it's diverse technologically. You go way out in Argentina, you just go back 100 years. Okay, like literally into farmlands with no running electricity, no running water. There's a well for the town to draw from. There's no electricity. People are drying their clothes on hairpins. They're doing all that kind of stuff that you expect to see in the 1900s, early 1900s. 99.9% of votes were counted in 6 hours. Maricopa County in the United States of America is going to need almost 2 weeks. No, fuck that. There was something really wrong there.
You want to know what the population difference between the two of them are?
Oh, here we go.
Argentina has a population of 45.7 million people.
Oh, my God.
It's the 35th most populated country in the world. Maricopa County, 4.5 million people.
Wow. It's a tenth of the size. That's crazy.
And they're going to need 10 to 13 business days.
Versus the 6 that these other guys, dude, it's so crazy. Like, they're teeing us up for corruption. They're literally telling everybody, hey, we're going to need time to fake this.
Yeah.
That's
nuts. Exactly what it is.
It is.
You're going to see how many, because like right now Republicans are voting early in droves. Okay. Jesse's voted. I voted. Everybody should get out and vote. Hopefully not for the party of evil, but whatever. You should get out and vote. At least get out and get your voice heard, because I don't want to hear any bitching after Kamala wins.
Yeah.
For some mysterious reason.
Yeah. We don't want that either. But track this. We can end this podcast now, today. But I'm telling you right now, on Election Day, I am going to be watching Maricopa County every fucking hour. Every time they post an update, I'm going to be there watching. And if everything is going red, and then suddenly the evening, 10 days later, Kamala's in the lead by some crazy number. No.
20,000 votes.
I'm joining Charlie Kirk in whatever he is planning because it's not going to be good, and I don't give a fuck anymore. Like this is why we have the Second Amendment. I'm not playing these games.
Yeah, the thing that pisses me off too. This is my last thing, and then we can just shut it off because otherwise we'll sit here and talk for 3 hours. Okay. Election integrity is one of the few things that is keeping this country together. Okay. We need to be able to believe in our elections. Americans believe in our republic, right? We call it a democracy a lot, right? But we believe in our republic. And if we start to lose faith in that, that's one of the last things that's binding us together as a country, right? So it's not going to be good, I don't think.
Nope. And we'll be doing this podcast in a year in Rio de Janeiro, speaking Spanish, wearing the sky blue and white jerseys. And we're going to be soccer fans.
Do we have to call it
fans.
football? Do
Yes.
we have to call it football?
Oh, hell
now?
yeah. We'll proudly call it football as new Argentinians.